Hi, everybody. My name is Francie. Today I will be talking about health systems management for our individual chapter presentation. I'm specifically talking about this because I was very interested and I wanted to get into the details of what health systems management looks like. Uh, I see it as I see it as delivering success through structure and strategy. So here we go. Health systems management, I found it to be very tailored, or I should say, connected with project management, which has a cycle of its own that's divided into five main phases: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and controlling, and closing. So each of these stages, or I should say phases, have action of their own, and they're each able to provide some sort of benefit as to how health systems management work. The next slide here shows our project lifecycle, just showing how each of them are broken down. The initiation portion of the project lifecycle refers to defining project goals, the purpose, the feasibility. This typically starts with the CEO, the chief executive officer, who brings in goals and purposes that they wish to see for the hospital, whether that's to see an increase in volume of patients by 20% for the next 5 years. That can be a goal, a set goal that is put in place for the next 5 years for that hospital. Um, the planning portion is referring to actually having a detailed plan, which includes things like scheduling, budgeting, and resources. This can come from different aspects. This will also include different individuals who are in different positions, like are the CFO, the chief financial officer. This will also include the CEO, and also include just different heads of departments, which will focus on how can they schedule different positions, and also how can they look at things like budgeting, resources, investors, vendors, different ways to make different sources of incomes for the hospital to gain cash flow, for it to function properly, gain the equipment that it needs. Also looking into things like how are they able to handle labor cost and equipment, especially now with AI being a big thing. How are they going to be inputting all this technology into the hospitals? Moving on is execution. Actually putting these tasks or actually putting project tasks and providing services towards reaching the goal that the CEO has set in place. Um, actually implementing different kinds of objectives for what they hope to see for this hospital in the next couple of years. Monitoring, tracking progress, managing risks, and adjust as needed. This is very important. This is something that hospitals do. It just allows them to kind of look through budgeting, look through their financial sheet to kind of figure out um, how has the hospital been doing over the year, what needs to be fixed, what needs to be looked at, what are some challenges, what are some obstacles, where does funding need to go, what needs to be funded, what can be implemented. For the most part, this is an important process because this is where growth can happen in a hospital. It allows them to kind of tailor different aspects of things that occur in a hospital and then work towards improving that. Things like having a um, entry system that allows patients to feel more comfortable when they come in to speak to a nurse and come see their doctor. Things like kiosk, which is a very effective thing that we're seeing in hospitals now, um, which allow patients to go to talk to somebody real time without having to wait for long waited appointments. And just finally, closure, getting into completing the project, reaching the goal, kind of evaluating the performance and see how we can grow from there and expand. So these are different parts of the cycle that's very important when it comes to health systems management. Here are some key roles in the project. Like I mentioned before, the CEO who is overseeing the operations of the hospital and the health system. Also looking at how different strategies and different long term decisions that needs to be made, managing the budget, and actually looking at compliance. Compliance is a very important thing for hospitals. It allows them to gain funding, making sure that they're okay. They're in compliance with CMS, which is the make sure they're in compliance with CMS, making sure they're also following policies, and always looking at changes in market trends to make sure that they are following healthcare guidelines. It's also important as well because it helps them have credibility, and credibility is something that's important not only for the hospital itself but also for patients. Trust is a very important thing in healthcare, and it's important that the patients who are coming in to their hospital feel not only comfortable but they also feel like they will be receiving the services they need when they come in, when they come in into that hospital. um, we also have the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, who takes care of financial planning, budgeting, resource allocation throughout different departments. Things like expenses, whether that from labor cost, equipment. With AI being a big thing right now, that we're seeing that being implemented in hospitals. So that's also coming into budgeting. Um, Things like labor cost for staff, things like working alongside the IT department to make sure that the systems are up to date and are working effectively, to make sure that we're protecting um, private health information, and that they're not the hospital's not violating any HIPAA rules and regulations. There's also the chief medical director slash chief medical officer, which provides clinical leadership and ensures quality patient care, overseeing physicians and clinical staff, making sure that they are following protocols, and that they're adequately trained to handle different situations and different tasks. The chief nursing officer also does a similar situation, working along with the nursing staff, making sure that they can provide adequate, high quality patient care, and also they're able to follow policies and training to make sure they're adequately ready and capable of handling different situations. The next slide just talks about the common challenges that you would expect from a health system management. Things like the scope. Making sure that the which has to do with the higher ups. The CEO providing a adequate and feasible goal, not something that's necessarily unattainable, but something that they're expecting to see the hospital reach in the next 5 to 10 years. Whether that's expansion, whether that's a higher volume of patients, whether that's more specialists coming in to work in the hospital, having different services being provided. All of those are part of a long-term decision making, long-term goals, and is being decided by the CEO and other high officials. Um, Resource limitations, that's important as well. When we mention hospitals, we want to talk, there's a lot to mention when it comes to budgeting. Okay, because the money that's being invested is not just staying in one place. There's a cash flow. It's being traversed to different departments, different things. Again, like I mentioned earlier, whether that's from labor cost, equipment, beds, maintenance, electricity, security. All of those are being put into play when it comes to resource allocation. Unrealistic deadlines can be something as well to look out for when it comes to challenges. Maybe the stakeholders are expecting certain things to be done on a small deadline, and that can go against maybe what a chief medical officer is hoping for, and that can cause some communication miscommunication or arguments between both sides. So that is also important as well, which ties into poor communication, making sure that yes, there are different departments, but this is one hospital, and that we're able to work together to making sure that everybody is on the same page, which it maybe is often not the case, but it's still very important to make sure we know what we're doing. And Risk mismanagement is also a challenge, a common challenge. You know, in a hospital, things are never the same. There's always something new that happens. You never know what to expect, but it's also important to be prepared. Um, and that's why they have these, and that's why there are these trainings for staff to make sure they are prepared and they're able to handle certain challenges and events that may occur in different emergencies and different situations. Success factors for a project, or particularly for hospitals, having a clear goal, having a clear scope, which again goes up to the higher ups, the CEO who will be handling that. Having effective communication between the different departments, making sure they're able to guide their team and make decisions and make adequate decisions. Continuous monitoring, going through regular updates to see if there's progress, to check performance, making sure there's strong leadership and teamwork, having detailed plans, realistic timelines, and also having the right amount, having resource allocation to help avoid delays, and it also helps with time. Time is something that's very important, especially when you want to provide quality service to your patients. So you just want to make sure you're getting it right. Stakeholder involvement, involving stakeholders, ensures that requirements are being met as to what they're expecting from this hospital, and it also ensures that and it also can ensure future funding for future expansion for hospitals and future projects that the CEO or the COO or any of the other higher ups would like to put into place as to what they would like to see for this hospital in the next 10 to 15 years or even 5 to 10 years. um, my approach, the approach that I chose, was a SWOT analysis approach. I find the SWOT analysis to, although it's the most common approach of business that everybody knows when you mention an approach. When you mention a kind of a way of tackling down certain things when it comes to business. The reason I chose the SWOT approach is because it kind of just identifies the different things we're looking for, or what we can hope to work, or what we can use to work with when we think about hospitals. Identifying strengths, identifying what the team would look like, what the organization does well, how resources can be leveraged, from where are we getting our income from investors, vendors, stakeholders, having community leaders be involved as well, so that way we can gain trust from the community surrounding our population in the area that we are located, that the hospital is located in. Also recognizing weaknesses, recognize whether that's from an internal standpoint or from an external standpoint. Things like the newer technology that's being put out, making sure that our staff are being able to not only understand the technology but also be able to implement it effectively. Looking at external trends, market changes, policies that are being put out depending on the administration that is in power. Threats that can exist, potential risk and challenges, can always come from competitors, market changes, and resource constraints. But as to why I think this approach is very effective is because it just provides a structured overview of what we can expect, of different factors that can affect um, a project that would be put in place for a hospital. It helps with strategic planning and making decisions that highlight different areas in order to kind of mitigate the risk that can come up for hospitals and just for expanding and gaining growth. It also helps with problem solving, and it also helps with supporting stakeholder discussions by clearly making sure that there's communication between what potential outcomes may occur and what challenges may come from those decisions that are being made from on top. And here are my sources. And thank you so much.